Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my beautiful audience. And it's so funny because usually I'm saying good evening because I'm usually taking podcasts after the university. But now it's so cool in our time, right? So you can sit and experience more in here. And actually, my guest now, he's experienced the evening time. So anyway, which time zone we are, the most important we have already discussed. It's our time. It's the most precious commodity we have, and I'm so grateful that great talents and the people they say yes to my show and they would like to share this commodity with me. Um, Today we have our podcast, and the title is Navigating to Sustainable Future, the intersection of media, tech, and education. And I'm thrilled to announce my very special guest. We already discussed it's Douglas Montgomery, but I'm going to call him just Doug, how he's used to hear, right? The
That's fine
founder
with
of
me.
Global Connects Media, a company that bridges the gap between all this very important dynamic industry, which I already mentioned, media, tech, and education. So, with over 25 years of global experience, Doug has guided industry giants like Amazon, Walmart, and Microsoft through the digital transformation. Wow, what a journey from VHS to streaming, to digital
Hmm.
and then streaming. Oh my
Yep.
God, cool. Having spent 15 years with Warner Brothers Discovery and worked across the US, Japan, and the UK, and I'm sure many more countries globally, Doug's unique global perspective has helped companies of all sizes navigate major shifts in the media landscape. So Doug also actively supports the Asian community in Los Angeles and serves on the board of directors for the Japan American Society of Southern California. So today we are very thrilled, and me, I'm very proud and honored and privileged to dive into your personal life a little bit and your career. So thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And my first question, it's already became the tradition before we start speaking about all these great achievements, right? So it's always starts from our childhood. It's about our dreams, aspirations, imaginations. It's always something from little Valeria, little dog. How
Hmm.
was this boy? Can you welcome us to his magical road? And yes, can because I do believe that our childhood creates really big impact on our adulthood. So please tell us about little dog. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And again, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. It's my pleasure. Um, so actually, I'm sitting here. It is night, like you said, in Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo, Japan, the world's biggest city. I'm looking out the window, and I see a really tall building. I see the tallest building in Japan. It's called Azabudai Hills.
Uh-huh.
When I was a little boy, my parents bought me Lego blocks. And what I like to build with Lego blocks were buildings. I like to build skyscrapers from at the time, mostly like New York City. I'm from Canada, so New York City or Toronto. But I like to build cities, big cities with the subway, tall buildings, etc. That's what I did when I was 6 or 7 years old. And here I am today talking to you, looking out my window right there at the tallest building in Japan. So, in that respect, I have achieved my dream.
Okay, so actually, can you relate? Have you been building exactly this house which you are looking at now? Is it a lot of colors, or I've never been to Japan? This is my dream. So how it's
Mhm.
actually? So you really mean it's the biggest city in the world now?
Correct, correct. I
Wow.
mean, depends on the definition, but many people consider it the biggest city in the world.
Okay,
But
and how much?
regardless, it's very busy, right? So
Yeah.
subways going up and down, cars moving, and I always wanted to live in a busy place, even when I was a child. Like I mentioned, like that was my dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in Edmonton, Canada. It's a city, but it's a small city. It's far away. It's very north. It's
Uh-huh.
far away from the action, and I always want to be where the action was. And I want to be in the biggest cities in the world. So I've been all over the world, but I've lived in Tokyo a long time. I
Mm-hmm.
lived in Los Angeles. I
Mm-hmm.
lived in London. Like these are big, big, big
Um,
cities, and that's what I wanted when I was a little boy. So I, to that
ama-
extent, I've achieved my dream.
Amazing, so inspiring. Um, Beautiful story. And okay, then we go smoothly, like starting breaking down the story, right? So
Mhm.
now we know um, the dream, the start of the dream, and could you share a little bit then further your life path and how you? Okay, you already shared that you're from Canada, and a little bit about your school and
Mhm.
actually how you choose your career and what was happened afterwards. Can you start
Sure.
sharing
Mhm.
before I actually dive into all
Sure.
this information
Yeah,
I
that's
already
fine.
gave
So,
briefly?
as I mentioned, I grew up in Edmonton. Like I said, it's a city, but it's a small city. I also went to college in Edmonton. So the first 20 years of my life was in the same city, the same friends, looking at the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always, had a bit of a dream to travel the world. So upon graduating undergraduate school, I wanted to travel around the world. This is before the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, 1990, Japan was hot, right? The Japanese economy was booming. It was kind of the new frontier. And a friend of mine had lived in Japan as an English teacher. And he told me, like, hey, you should come to Japan. You can make $100 an hour teaching English. It's so modern, just like the movie Blade Runner. And, back in 1990, 91, honestly speaking, Western countries were somewhat afraid of Japan.
Okay.
The U.S. economy wasn't doing well. Japanese economy was doing very well, and people thought, you know what, their way of business, their way of life is actually better than ours. That is what people thought in 1990. So I was, just quite curious to go take a look. I had no dream to go to Japan. I just literally went there because my friend said, "Hey, you should come." So I went. Just sense of adventure. So that was my first experience in Japan in 1991.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, because actually, I thought when I was studying a little bit your biography, it was like the opposite, that you actually came to LA and established yourself there and have done a lot of major, yes, career achievements and kind of just visited Japan and now, so I didn't know it was other way. It's very
Sure.
interesting. Uh, just one technical question. I'm
Hmm.
sorry because when you and me we are talking, are you experienced as well that it's sometimes the black screen and it's slowing
No,
down?
no, it's fine.
I just from my side because it's already the day number 2 and I would like to find out this is my problem with my platform is yours because yesterday I have podcast it was the same sometimes it was just black.
Sure. No,
Mm.
I've had no problem actually. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So this is just okay. Then we just go further. Okay, so you came to Japan, amazing. But about your school, what was the educational? What was the profession
Sure.
at
So
your
my
school?
undergraduate degree was
Yeah.
international business.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
So,
That's
like I said, I really wanted to see the world. Like that was my
really,
dream. So I
yeah.
studied international business, and then it's not easy to get a job as an international businessman. At 20 years old with zero experience. So I have no patience. I don't want to wait 10, 15 years to get moved by some company. So I decide not to work for the company and
Uh-huh.
go as a backpacker to Japan as an English teacher, much
Okay.
to my parents' sadness.
Okay.
they were
Okay.
they were not happy about this decision, but I did it anyway.
Yes, and now probably they're happy because you pursue your dreams, and then they want every parents want to see their children happy, right? So this is the most.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you came to Japan just to visit your friend because he invited you. You were
Hmm.
just 20 years old, bold, with open heart and open,
Hmm.
yes, open to new possibilities. And what's happened then? How
So
your yes career was
again,
it there?
this is a long time ago. This is pre-internet. Um, so coming to Japan in 1991, there weren't that many foreign people. So That's one. Two, no internet, right? So you don't have access to what's happening in the world. Three, I don't have any money. International phone calls actually really expensive. So coming here in 1991 really, cut off from my old life. I'd only talk to my parents every couple of weeks. We would go visit a bookstore in the busy part of town, and they might have a newspaper from the U.S. that's 7 days old, right? So
Okay.
you're really kind of cut off from the old life. And honestly speaking, that was like really cool,
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't do that now. So now everybody has the cell phone,
Uh,
instant access to everything. So I'm really quite happy, and I feel super fortunate that I actually had the experience of really being cut off from the rest of the world, because
mm-hmm.
you can't do that now. So that really, at the time actually was kind of difficult and not so easy, but I had that experience, and you couldn't do that today. So I'm really quite grateful for that. um, and I mean, my own son, he'll never experience that, so I feel bad for him. He doesn't care because he will never know, but I know because I did it.
Exactly, I can relate so much because when I talk to my kids now, they're like, "Huh? What do you mean you didn't have PC? What do you mean you didn't have a smartphone?" I said, "What I mean, I didn't have any phone. We had just this automat, like on the block house in another block street. So that's it." But yes, like you said before, it was quite. Um, I don't know. It was less choices, less bombarding of this information, right? It
Sure,
was
absolutely.
for our brain. We didn't have to perceive that many impulses all the time. It's like overloading
Hmm.
all the time, right? It's we need actually now to teach us to slow down, to go backwards, how to be more mindful, at least to try to focus just on one thing. And when it's everybody, every
Yep.
stimuli, it sometimes, yes, but it's true. This generation, they have no idea how
They have
actually
no idea.
been
They have no idea.
unfortunate. It's true. I also believe, like, okay, we could really experience, like you in your career later, all this transformation, right? But we
Mm.
also did it in our life. Amazing. But if we go uh, to the your career with digital and with all this tech and media industry, how did you start that, and could you share all this
Sure.
transformation? So it's very exciting.
So I was in actually I went back to Canada this year for Christmas. So I met my family. I hadn't seen them in probably 5 years. We
Oh,
had COVID for a couple of years, so no
uh,
travel. But anyway,
okay.
I hadn't been home in about 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
so I was catching up with my cousins, and everybody's getting older, and my cousin asked me, well, how about your career? And I said, well, my career is really one thing. I always chose adventure, right? Like there was no plan. All I wanted to do was leave and see the world, and
Mm-hmm.
then each job opportunity I had just came up. I cannot overemphasize, there was no plan. Just
Yeah.
if there was an opportunity and some new adventure, I would try. And that's and I've been very fortunate because the very first job I had was English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The second job I had, I was selling vegetable oil, just vegetable oil, like putting on salad, right?
Uh-huh.
Not so exciting. Um, the job I
It was
had it,
Japan. Everything now is still in Japan.
that was in Japan, yeah. And then after that, I was selling plastic products, including garbage. I was literally selling a garbage, right? I would
Oh,
go to somebody and say, "Hey, buy our garbage,"
oh,
you know. And then eventually, I ended up working at Warner Brothers, selling Harry Potter, selling Lord of the Rings, selling Game of Thrones. So that's incredible, right? From like vegetable
from
oil
garbage
to a
to
garbage can to like Harry Potter. But there was no plan. It was just opportunity came, and I took the adventure.
But that, can you share when all that happened? You said again, it's just adventure, no plan. But could you hear actually some inner voice of kind of intuition, or it just was really boldly like, wow, I just go through?
No, I wanted to go to a big city.
Here it's really aligned with
I
your.
wanted to live in a big city. So, I lived in Osaka, a big city, as an English teacher, but the career was going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to Canada. I worked in a really small town,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really for the vegetable oil company, and I was really unhappy. I did not like it
And
at
depressed,
all.
probably.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. So I always was thinking, how can I leave? How can I leave? How can I leave? But at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, I can leave. I can be a bartender or something. But I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking, how can I make my career
Mm-hmm.
in some big fancy city? So
Mm-hmm.
that was always in my mind. So I was always looking for that opportunity. I don't care about the product or the job. I care about the location.
Okay. And as we know, where focus goes, energy flows. So then, of course, you were focused on your dream. And then tell us how you started at Warner Brothers and all this
Sure.
transformation, how you, yes, that journey happened.
So the vegetable oil company, they hired me because I had lived in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and there weren't that many people who had lived in Japan at the time, and they had business in Japan. So I lived in a small city in Canada, but when Japanese customers came to visit the factory, it was nice to have me there. But I wasn't happy because I was in this small city. I was not going on the business trip to Japan, so I wasn't happy. Um, but anyway, eventually they got a big contract in Japan, and they decided to send me back. So I got very lucky. I was sent by the small company from a small city, and they sent me to Tokyo to work, to help with the customers in Japan. So that was a big, big break.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for a couple of years. Uh, anyway, I can go to a lot of detail, but the business didn't go well. So
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I got laid off. So then they said, look, we can bring you back to Canada, but if you don't want to come to Canada, we're going to let you go. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
make a decision. Do I go back to Canada with this little small company, or quit or get fired, whatever you want to call it, and stay in Japan? So once again, I have a choice. I choose adventure. Okay, I will stay in Japan. I will take my chances. I will find a new job.
Mm-hmm.
And I got lucky. I found a job um, with this company that was selling, it was an American company selling garbage cans in Japan. But the interesting thing is, right at that very moment was when I met my wife. My wife is Japanese,
Mm-hmm.
and actually we got married in Japan when I was unemployed. So
Uh-huh.
I have to give a lot of credit for my wife. At the time that I got, I had to leave the one company. I didn't have a new job. She was still willing to marry me. So
Yeah.
I have to give her full credit. I got married as an unemployed guy, but
Mm-hmm.
I got lucky, and I found a new job rather quickly at the time.
Yes. And you see that
Still
that's,
married, by the way. Still married, same lady.
oh,
25 years.
congratulations.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
story. You see that she made the right choice. She followed her heart and she saw the
Yep.
most important in you, it's your values. Because job and all these circumstances, it's changeable. But mostly when she met you, you already established or you
Mhm.
were born with very special values she chosen and it was the very right choice for her. So congratulations. Yes. And okay, so now we're still in Japan, and then let's go to, because you started working with Warner Brothers. It's already in Los Angeles, right?
No, so um, anyway, I was in Japan working for this plastic company selling the garbages,
Uh-huh.
and once again my career stalled. Right, my
Mm-hmm.
career stalled. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere in Japan. So what should I do? I think what, I need to go back and get a graduate degree.
Uh-huh.
So discuss with my wife, and once again we agree to quit my job and go to the U.S. and get a graduate degree. That's also a big decision, right? Like, we are quitting our life and completely leaving Japan. So, again, we discussed and we both agreed to do it. So we left Japan 2002. I went to Los Angeles
Mm-hmm.
and got a graduate degree at University of Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Before we left for Los Angeles, my wife, who was an interpreter by trade, was working for Walmart in Japan. So
Uh-huh.
she worked for the top guy for Walmart in Japan. So when she quit, her boss said, "Why are you leaving?" Well, my husband wants to get a graduate degree. So he said, "Look, when your husband graduates from MBA,
Mhm.
call me and we'll see if we can find him a job. So
Wow, amazing.
at the end of the MBA,
Hmm.
we finished, we're in Los Angeles, right? My wife calls her old boss and says, hey, my husband's done. We think Walmart is going to hire us and take us back to Japan. But they
Hmm.
did not. Walmart said, we want people who have international experience in our head office in Arkansas. So we
Hmm.
have to move to Arkansas. Once again, a small town.
Oh yeah, again. Did the wheel like this, and so you moved back to small
Yes,
before big
correct.
adventure again, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, we work for Walmart, which is quite exciting because the world's biggest company, but we
Hmm.
don't like the town. The town is small.
Hmm.
So once again, I'm thinking, how can we progress the career and also move to somewhere big, right? At the time, DVD business was booming.
Hmm.
Um, so I kept looking around, and eventually I applied for a job with Warner Brothers
Hmm.
to help them with their DVD business with Walmart, and Warner Brothers hired me. So the first job I had with Warner Brothers was
Hmm.
in Arkansas,
Hmm.
working on Walmart account when Walmart was buying billions of dollars of DVD. This is 2005.
Uh-huh. Okay. And it started there, and you have
Correct.
witnessed all this transformation. Oh my God.
Yes. There's no
Yes.
digital. They're just, VHS tapes
Yes,
to,
yes,
at the
I know.
time was like Walmart store had VHS tapes and
Mm-hmm.
then slowly reducing VHS tapes and bringing in DVD.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I started in entertainment.
Yeah. So can you believe you've been like really diversified through your path, like culturally, and now like all this major shift in this tech and EI, now EI, right? Everything
Mhm.
digitalization, everything was happened, and mostly, of course, like I mean, interaction with diversity, diverse cultures, and based on ethnical background and all type of diversity. So because my podcast, it's about diversity and diversity
Mhm.
management. It's my
Sure.
search and also my passion, because I'm also like I'm Ukrainian. Been living in Norway so many years, so it's always my subject, like always my topic, like and I want to discover more and more. And of course, I'm advocating for more inclusive environments, and try to to say that it's just, I know it's not just advantages, it's also challenging, but still I believe diversity, it's like biodiversity, it's so great for human being for all reasons. But and even like I could read and of course understand from your profile that your career all the time were uh, so much connected with working in diverse environments, right? And
Mhm.
so could you please then share actually how you see it from diversity perspective? What
Sure.
are the challenges and what actually, okay, advantage and disadvantage,
Sure.
and if there are use advantage, how we can actually harness them? Thank you.
So, actually funny you ask about diversity now. So Arkansas is in the middle of the United States. It's kind of the South. It is very, very, mainly like Caucasian people like myself, but it is very, very, very different from Canada. Very
Uh-huh.
different. And actually, the team that I work for in Arkansas, they called me, this white face in Arkansas, they called me stealth diversity.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
that's what they called me. They said, look, actually, you're from Canada, you're quite different. You also spent a long time in Japan. You actually are quite different from the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
Face is the same, right? But actually, spirit and knowledge is very different. So literally, they called me stealth diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's one. Two, I actually needed a visa because, again, I'm not American, right? That was a
Mm-hmm.
whole other problem. They weren't used to hiring foreign people in US. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I had to go through the same process that, anybody has to go through in US. So, the point I'm making is diversity is not always like the easy one, like skin color or sex or gender. Diversity can be like mindset,
Mm-hmm.
background. And, you know, my boss even said, like, before they hired me, like, are you going to be okay trying to sell and work with, people from the South? once again, they're Caucasians just like me, but he was worried like that I wouldn't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm making is diversity, like I just said, is not just skin color, is not just you know sex or gender. It can be many things. And working in Arkansas, I felt quite different from everybody else, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and
I didn't
how
feel like I fit in.
no, and then your approach was like how to cope with that. You should adjust, they should adjust. What was the way, or still you wanted actually to
Sure.
go to the bigger
So
city?
one thing I'll add to that, remember, my wife is Japanese, right? There are not that many Asian people in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went there, we went to the shopping mall to kind of like check out the town if we could live there or not. She looks around the shopping mall, she doesn't see any other Asian people, zero, right?
Zero.
And she's from Tokyo. It's like 20 million Asian people, or
Mm-hmm.
lived in California. There's lots of Asian people. So she's like, no, we are not living here. But anyway, we did. But I think I got very lucky
Mm-hmm.
because actually the team that I worked with at Walmart, they were a lot of fun and very, very open.
Okay. Mm.
Um, so I actually worked for Walmart International. So I think people had an open mind anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I worked for the US side, it would have been different. But I got very lucky. And, quite frankly, they were curious about me and curious about my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And, that made all the difference. Like they were, oh, you lived in Japan. Oh, I like sushi. Oh, your wife's Japanese. Oh, I'd love to talk to her. So that made a huge difference because the particular team I worked for was
Mm-hmm.
very open. Had
Mm-hmm.
they not been open, hey, life could be very different. But they were very open, so I'm very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that also it can be like plus and minus to live in like big city with a lot of small communities and all this busyness. But sometimes it's true. It's like maybe small tight communities. They are more. Um, it's less competition, maybe less
Mm,
speed, maybe less. I don't. They are more flexy. It can be like little bit different environment than because in big city it's kind of battle all the time, and
mm,
people are so self I don't know focused. So because I've lived like in the south part of Ukraine, and when
mm.
I moved to Kiev, also I discovered it was a big difference. Even for me, even like you said, it's
Sure.
culture, but it's
Mm.
subculture. Even I'm still Ukrainian,
Subculture, absolutely.
but for me it was also I didn't quite fit from the beginning at all. And people in Kiev, their capital, they look like me like this, like, oh, you're from
Yeah,
there,
yeah, I know.
like
I
countryside,
understand. I
still
understand very well.
countryside. So, but yes, when again I moved due to other reason to the smaller city, then again, oh, it's so nice, something new, something like it's, but it's always about mindset, right? It's about
Mm,
people who actually are surrounding you all the time, like on
mhm.
daily basis. So that's why maybe you have chosen to stay. And how many years you lived in this smaller city?
Almost 5.
Oh, okay, so almost five
It
years.
was a
Okay,
while.
yeah.
So what you said something interesting, subcultures. So here's an observation my wife and I have from both of our perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of lived in 3 different cities,
Mm-hmm.
very small, like Arkansas. So actually in Arkansas, we actually made some really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
There ended up being, I don't know, maybe 10 Japanese ladies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only 10. But because the number was so small, they
Mm-hmm.
got along like family,
Yeah.
right? So my wife made some really good friends with these other, Japanese ladies, and those families actually became really close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, we also lived in Los Angeles a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are
How
many
many
Jap.
how many years have you lived there?
We lived in Los Angeles for like 14 years.
Uh-huh.
We actually struggled to make friends in Los Angeles, but not Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is why? There's actually a lot more Japanese in LA, a
Mm-hmm.
lot more, couples like us, mixed couples. But the community is almost, it's actually, you could argue it's exactly the wrong size because it's big enough to have kind of its own diverse group of people,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also keep bumping into each other. So it
Mm-hmm.
can get very, very, competitive.
Intense,
In
yeah.
Arkansas, it's so small cannot be competitive. You have to get along. You have to
Mm-hmm.
get along.
Mm-hmm.
In LA, the Japanese community was kind of big enough that you didn't have to get along, but you
Mm-hmm.
weren't part of the bigger, white community either. So that mid-sized community actually was a bit of a struggle
Mm-hmm.
for us in Los Angeles. On the reverse side, it can be a bit of a struggle here in Tokyo for me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously most of the people are Japanese, but there is an okay size of foreign people. But
Mm-hmm.
I bump into them all the time. I go to an event, I'm trying to get a job, this and that. So I kind of bump into each other, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a little more competitive than the super super small community. So I just wanted to mention that because you mentioned these sub communities. They're
Mm-hmm.
very real, and they're all very different.
Look, it's very nice how our conversation took the angle, and I love this with podcast and actually sharing people's real story, because
It's a real story.
yeah,
It's a real
speak
story.
about like big this just professional, just like how you made this gross income and blah blah blah, all this. Yes, you can go and type and like get a lot of advices, but at the end of the day, it's everything about people and about their
Mm,
story and how we live this life, everyday life, which like the most important still. And what is the most of it, it's a relationship, right? Because yes, unfortunately, it's kind of sad that many relationships now they are changed with AI and just texting, and people even forget that phone actually basically it's also to make a calls. People like really, oh,
mm,
I also can, like, I'm joking with my kids now sometimes, but you can take the phone and call. It's not
yep.
telephone. It's not just to take pictures and text. It's
Mm,
actually basically was invented to make phone calls.
yes,
And
correct.
yes, exactly about this. So it's very nice to remember, yes, the diversity, culture, subculture, and you see, it's also about context, right?
Mhm.
Where to put it. But again, begin working in this big company, and you have been connected with so many cultures and people, and as I understood, also accomplished a lot of this great scaling projects, right? But if in this professional career, I mean, like not making friends, but in the job context, how was it to make people to work together successfully? What is the major key you believe? How to approach? Is it trust? Is it control? Is it encouraging to share culture? Or how did you?
Yeah, good question.
What was your approach as a leader? What kind of small key you try to use?
So I think as a leader or whatever, you have to. So again, I've been involved in Japan a long time, right? And like I said, I've been married to my wife 25 years.
Mhm.
So many times she simply looks at something like this, and I
Mhm.
look at it like that.
Yes,
She is
yes.
not right. I am not right. She
Mm.
is not wrong. I am not wrong. It's just different,
Different.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think as a leader or in a company, you can have two people who are very different and also be very successful leaders, right? So there's
Exactly.
not one style that always works.
Mhm.
So, I have my style and it works well in a certain way. In other ways, maybe not so well, but it's my style. That's what I'm going to do, right? I am not a controlling person. I do not like to be a micromanager.
Mhm.
Other people like to be a micromanager. I don't.
Mhm.
So um, that is my style, and I kind of have done that, regardless of what country I've worked in.
Mhm.
Um, in some countries it works better, in some it works worse. Actually, a Japanese guy that worked for me, he made this comment to me one time. It was super interesting. This is after he was no longer my subordinate. I was no longer his boss, and
Mhm.
we're talking about. I asked him. His name is Ryuji. I said, "Do you like a foreign boss or do you like a Japanese boss?" Basically, expecting he's going to say he likes a foreign boss. Why? Not because he's trying to like kiss my butt, but basically because foreign boss in general is easier than, not as demanding as Japanese boss. But
Mhm.
he said something very interesting. He goes, "You know what? Actually, I prefer Japanese boss." Oh, why is
Mhm.
that? He goes, "Because a American boss, half the time they're your friend and half the time they're your boss.
Mm-hmm.
And as the below guy, I have to jump back and forth. Am I his friend? Or is he my boss? Friend, boss, friend, boss. So he's constantly jumping back and forth. He found that very stressful. He said
Okay.
actually he prefers Japanese boss who is strict, bossy, and not friendly. But he says, I don't care. I know. I know. It's always clear. So he preferred the clarity of having a strict, bossy boss to like,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's sometimes casual and sometimes not. That was really interesting and something, he would never have told me until he was no longer working for me.
Okay. You see, yes, it's very interesting because my master thesis was the same. It was comparative analysis between trust-based and control-based management. And I was so sure before that uh, during my interview that I should get the comments that, of course, like trust-based, when we are friends, when you can share like the same almost um, I don't know, like it's when it's very flat structure, no hierarchy, so it's much better. But then many people also man that they were confused. They like
Mm,
really didn't understand, and then they didn't feel this um, the feeling of authority in their
mm,
boss, that like they kind of even consider them to be weak, because
mm.
they, some people really also they need clarity, they need this
Yes.
bound, like this is okay, this is not okay. And because this line boundaries in Norwegian society especially, it's very very diffuse. You and for people from my culture, when you come, like you have no idea that actually it's allowed to decide everything by yourself, and it's allowed to make mistakes and everything. We kind of uh, get used to have some directions, right, to be guided.
Hmm.
It's very interesting that it's actually not one size fits all, like every.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely not.
because
Absolutely not.
trust also can be really mistrusted, and also it's like lack of guidance, and you even don't know, am I doing right, am I doing wrong? There is
Mm,
no feedback, no like really like clear feedback. Maybe I'm already like took the failed train already so many
mm.
stations, like, right, and I'm still on
Sure.
this train. Maybe it's better if my boss said, oh, this is wrong train, come on,
Hmm.
jump off. Yes, interesting. Tell me, very interesting for me as well about this Japanese story. Now I understand why
Mm,
you engage so much in Los Angeles,
mm.
in Japanese society, and I could read your site. And actually, we didn't come to your company, your great
Oh,
company, already diversified, because you
yeah.
you decided to merge and to marry these three domains: tech,
Mm.
um, media, and education. Right? What was the sparkle, inspiration? Tell us about this story. This
So the truth the truth
global
is
connects media, right?
sure. The truth is,
Mm.
the phrase goes, I was graduated from Warner Brothers. I didn't graduate from Warner Brothers. I was graduated from Warner Brothers. It means so.
You was graduated.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm.
But anyway, that's fine. But so then I look at my life, and I'm, let's say the last one third of a career, and what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
This is during COVID, and lots of people have the spirit of YOLO, you only live once.
Ah.
So we kind of discuss, okay, what do you want to do? Well, you know what? I'm used to working at home. I don't want to commute anymore. I my boss is not watching over my shoulder. I like that. So can we make a living being independent consultant?
Mm-hmm.
And we say, okay, let's try. So as I told you, I always choose adventure. I don't know it's a good idea, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good days and bad days, but regardless, I choose, okay, let's try. So I have lots of knowledge, and I have lots of contacts. So can I bring the two together, and help the client and also make some money? So
Mm-hmm.
that's actually how it started. Again, no plan,
No
just
plan.
try. But I know people, so I can knock on the door and I say, let's try. So I also, when I was at Warner, it becomes a complicated answer, but I was basically an analyst,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave advice to the company. But I also have always been a heavy business news reader.
Okay.
I spent, I've been reading the newspaper since I was a little boy. I used to deliver newspapers. I find it very interesting to read the newspaper. Um, when I took the MBA class,
Mm-hmm.
um, I always got praise from the strategy professor about
Mm-hmm.
my insightful comments. And why did I have insightful comments? Because I read.
Mm-hmm.
I read the Wall Street Journal. I read the Financial Times. Like I spend hours, even now, 2 hours a day reading these things. So you have a lot of knowledge. So, when I leave Warner Brothers, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Well, tech is invading Hollywood. Content is becoming global.
Mm-hmm.
How can I bring this all together and make a business? So that's basically what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I started my own company and I found some clients and I bring all the three pieces together.
Amazing. And if you like mention like three fundamental pillars, what actually you are doing for your clients now, if they should have like understanding what and why they
Well,
should, what is add value, like what do you, of course I see it now
sure.
because, yeah, but
Oh,
what
it's not
I,
so easy. Well, you have to get them to open their wallet. It's not easy.
Mhm.
But probably the thing about me that's the most unique is I probably have I'm very good at seeing the intermediate term, right?
Mhm.
So, what's happening, now as an example, right? Anime, like I'm involved with Japan, right? So anime is super popular around the world. Actually, everybody knows that now. There's nothing new there. Oh, anime is popular. McDonald's is buying anime. The guy who won the 100-meter gold record, or sorry, the 100-meter in the Olympics last year, he loved anime. So like this thing, like anime used to be this hidden niche, but now they actually, have kind of raised to like the main level. So
Mhm.
to me, that topic is boring because everybody knows. So what's
Mhm.
next? What's next? So I'm always thinking like, what's 2 or 3 years down the road? Um, and because I do a lot of reading,
Mhm.
I think I'm quite good at that because I think you can pick a trend and get an idea of what a trend might be when you have read about it 15 times in
Mhm.
different source, right?
Mhm.
So if you have read about something 15 different times, 15 different people's opinion, you can idea, there's something there. So, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, I was talking about anime a lot because it
Mhm.
wasn't quite mainstream. Now it's mainstream. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking, okay, that's kind of boring. What is next? And I'm always thinking, 2 or 3 years down the road. I think I'm quite good at that.
Wow, amazing. And for me it's actually still a little bit not mainstream because maybe I don't know, uh, kind of, I believe one of my daughters she was into that, and because she's also very nice at drawing, so maybe I was a little bit presented by her. But what do you think, if you, your personal opinion, what is so actually special and different with anime? What is actually this um, magic in it?
Well, so the magic of anime, I mean, there's a lot of people have written about this, but, you know, well, first of all, anime was brought over to, outside Japan almost 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not exactly new. And it's had different waves of popularity. Right now is a peak of popularity, but it's had big popularity that gone down. But probably the simple answer, probably the biggest reason anime is so popular is actually to go to your favorite topic is it's very diverse,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you look at, let's say, US comics, Marvel or DC,
Mm-hmm.
those heroes they're actually not that diverse. I mean, okay, one guy's black and one guy's white and one's a woman, but they're all like superheroes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, strong, can do amazing things and whatever. So okay, the face is diverse, but actually what they do is not diverse at all. It's very,
Predictable.
superhero, super strong. But actually the anime characters, they are all over the map. Some are strong, some are weak, some are confident, some are underconfident. They have crazy bodies, they're not always pretty, etc. So the diversity of anime is actually much, much larger than the diversity of characters in US comics, in my opinion, but many people say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the stories resonate with people around the world actually much deeper than U.S. comics. U.S. comics can be very shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Superman, yeah, is a wonderful character, but it's not that complicated, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But anime is much more complicated, much more diverse, um, and the characters can be much more flawed,
Mm-hmm.
much more. They can look really funny, but actually they could be much more realistic in another way. So I just
Mm-hmm.
think the depth of anime is probably what has made it so successful around the world.
Wow, that's new for me. I love to stimulate my brain muscle. It's really, I can actually sit, maybe, okay, I love food, okay, I love eating, but to put something not in my stomach, but here I was like, oh, I have no idea. This is so
There,
interesting.
there's adult anime. It's not just for kids. Adults like it too.
Okay, no, I had no idea. And about your engagement in Los Angeles community, Japanese community, is it big there? It's because I now see it was festival and you're involved in so
Kinda, but
many
that's my
things.
point. Like it's kind of big, but at the same time, you're not part of the main. You're not part of the main society, right?
Yeah,
Like it is a subculture.
yeah.
LA is a funny city, in that it's they say it's a collection of subcultures, right? Like the Korean community is very tight. The Japanese community is very tight.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Ukrainian community. There's an Armenian community. There's a Mexican community. There's a Guatemalan community,
And
and
yeah.
they don't merge all that much. They kind of exist side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you live in this city. I don't know, 20 million people, but the Japanese community is maybe 10,000
Mm-hmm.
people. And like I said, you kind of bump up on each other, and it's a funny size. This medium sized community. It can be, as I mentioned, difficult actually, because it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of big, so you don't see everybody every day, but in the end it's actually kind of small. um, and
I,
the comparison was when we lived in Arkansas, and the community was really small. Actually, my wife made better friends in Arkansas than LA.
yeah. And this award, can you share us? Because I also read that you've been awarded with a great award.
Oh,
So, what kind of award was it? Can
well,
you tell us?
anyway, so like I said, my wife's a Japanese. We've been married 25 years. My son, actually, he's adopted. He's a Japanese national. He's now 17.
Mm-hmm.
I have spent the last 30 years of my life basically making money between Japan and North America. I am committed to Japan, right? Like that will be my life. That's my
Mm-hmm.
family's life. That's my business life. So I was asked almost, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago by Japanese government, can you help us, create the next generation of, global entertainment executives?
Uh-huh.
And they said, we have some people, they're high potential, 30 something years old, Japanese people that we want to invest in, and
Mm-hmm.
have them learn how to make content global. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, when Netflix wasn't that big at the time, at the time Warner was the biggest entertainment company. Can you help us? So I said, of course. So anyway, quite frankly, Warner was not all that interested in doing the program,
Mm-hmm.
for a number of reasons. Um, so I pushed and pushed and pushed really hard, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually Warner said yes. And we hired a lady in the first year that worked, for me, you know, working partially for me, but partially for somebody else. Learning how Warner Brothers became a global company, and we
Mm-hmm.
did that for 2 or 3 years. And then Japanese government was grateful, so they gave me the Cool Japan Award.
Mm, amazing. It's about, yes, again, diversity. So I love that merging of culture, and like you said, we have already discussed it, challenging, of course. That's why it's so beautiful, because we have the same point. I love adventure as well, and always merging culture or some type of diversity. It's always risky and challenging, and it's always adventurous, right? Yeah, but
It's always
that's
adventure. I always chose adventure. I'm not sure it's always the best idea, but I personally always chose it.
but this authenticity, this is your integrity, yeah. And okay, and then very um nice insights, knowledgeable. And the last topic I want to touch, it's very new, and not new like topic for me, but new maybe around the world, the emerging type of diversity which people start speaking more and more. It's neurodiversity and
Mhm.
neurological, because I am the part of community, as we can say it like that. I'm displaying my neurodiversity is OCD, but it's so many different different spectrums,
Mhm.
right? And I do believe that people like me and with special outside of box thinking, it's very
Mhm.
cool for especially creative domains. But it's still like, society still have a lot of barriers and
Mhm.
stigma and prejudice, how this should be, how that should be, right? So what is your opinion about neurodiversity and media, tech, and education? um, have you
Sure.
first of all, have you heard about this concept? Because
Oh,
for
absolutely.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because
So,
it's so strange. I have OCD 14 years, and I met this terminology just 3 months ago. It's so
mm.
strange. That's why I decided now I have to do something with this topic. So, yes, please.
So one of the jobs I have, I'm a part-time professor at Temple University in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and I just started last semester. This is the second round of teaching I'm doing. So I'm exposed to like a lot of young people, right? Like 30, 40 people, 19, 20 years old. And anyway, they are the so-called digital native, right? And they, Gen Z, digital native. And,
Mm-hmm.
what you read about digital natives is that they are very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, every generation is different, right? Baby boomer, Gen X, millennial, everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
But what they say is actually no, Generation Z is actually quite different.
Quite
They're
different.
actually, the difference between Generation Z and millennials is quite big. The
Mm-hmm.
difference between millennial and Gen X, not so big. Why? Well, one huge reason is actually digital, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because this generation has been 100% digital, which
Mm-hmm.
means they, two big things. One, they've been connected to the entire world through the internet their entire life. And
Mm-hmm.
then two, they're very used to like devices.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very different. And, teaching this group of kids, both last semester and this semester, I can see it. And, there's, we can go on and on about, social media, good or bad, but regardless, neurodivergence has come up many, 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 many times.
Mm-hmm.
That did not come up when I grew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boy or girl, that's it,
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was very, very
Behave.
simple,
Yeah. That's
but
it.
now it's very complex.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something that probably has been, it's probably always been there, but now because of many reasons, the lid is off and you can see it, but maybe before it was hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think people feel safer or more, maybe safer to express themselves that way because, they've been doing it online. To express yourself online is actually much easier than in person.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So, all these things have kind of come together. So this generation is actually quite different
Mm-hmm.
from how I grew up. Um, but at the same time, it's super interesting for me, to talk to them
Mm-hmm.
and get to know them. I have a son, but your own child is not going to be as open as a stranger,
Yeah.
because your child's open. They're like, oh, go do your homework or take out the garbage. But these kids in my class, they're actually really open um, about the good and bad in their life. I wasn't like that at their age. Absolutely not. You would not say anything bad about yourself out
Mm-hmm.
loud. So it's super interesting to me, and I'm quite grateful for the opportunity that I have.
Mm. Yes, I also notice, and even for me and for my kids, like they have this wider lens how they watch this world. It's like for them, yes, it doesn't have to be just that or just that,
Mm,
right? It's like we had, like you said, boy and girl, and it was at school, behave, not behave. That's it.
mm,
But now, like, okay, you can give them many options, and they're like, oh, okay, okay, if he likes it, it's okay. I don't care, like as long as these people and kids are happier. But I think it's very nice tendency now that I'm trying to spread the knowledge and awareness for all kids, and I believe in school they can start teach also about all type of diversity. It will be because the most important, like you and me were about connection, relationship, right?
mm,
And as much as we know about other person, it will be easier to interact, to approach. We don't need to grow this fear all the time, like you
mm,
said, that she's not right, you are not right, you're just
mm,
different, the same. I am
You were just
pursuing
different, correct?
information just differently, but I'm
Mm.
not bad or good. I'm just different, right?
Mm.
If we just can spark a little bit curiosity and teach our kids, it's okay to be curious. It's
Mm.
okay that your friend can be different. Why not?
Mm.
That's why it's not boring. Biodiversity, look, everything is different. That's why it's so
Mm.
beautiful.
I agree.
Thank you. So yes, and before wrapping up, actually, I always joking a little bit because we start with childhood and we should come back a little bit, and we are playing the game with this beautiful thing which I has bought in Morocco in my
Okay.
Christmas time now, and you know what it is, right?
Yep. By the way, I have been to Morocco. I was interested in North Africa, so I went a long
Oh,
time ago. Like I said, I always go adventure. I was there in 1989.
oh wow.
I wanted to see the Morocco. But anyway,
Yes. So you know this, then which fairy tale we are talking about?
which what? Sorry,
Which fairy tale this thing from?
Aladdin.
Yes, this is lamp. And this is my magical lamp, which actually cutie one. It's pink. It helps us to make your wish put yeah true, but not three, just one. So if I'm your genie today and
Mhm.
you could make one wish, not three, what kind of wish that would be?
So I say it out loud.
Yes, you said.
I can say it. Oh, so well, at the moment we are, we're trying to do what we can to help young Japanese creators be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Not the famous people, but the not so famous people. And we wish that that people who have creative ideas can become successful. Um, and it's not easy. Entertainment's a really tough industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're always trying to think of ways and how we can get people who need it, diverse people, people who need help, how we can help them better. We do this film festival. We have two groups of people. We bring in famous people that, quite frankly, brings in the sponsor
Mm-hmm.
because sponsors will pay you when there's famous people. But really, our hearts are like, how can we make the non-famous people successful?
Beautiful. And I love the idea that your wish, it's actually not about your wish, it's your wish to help other people. It's beautiful, really. It's I think this wish, that's for sure, will be fulfilled.
Thank you.
Yes, I wish from all my heart. So I just would like to thank you so much again for showing up, giving your time, your opinion,
Sure.
your beautiful adventure story. It's very interesting. You've learned me a lot actually on this short period of time, and I'm really grateful. And then I would like to thank our audience for staying with us. And I would like just to wrap that. Thank you. Uh, that for that opportunity that we are having now, because we discussed all type of
Mhm.
yes culture, subculture, but at the end of the day it's so beautiful that we all have this experience and we can share them, right? And by sharing our story can inspire other people to help. Even now you made this beautiful wish to help other people, and uh, I always believe if we spread, if we articulate more clearly what we are doing, what we wish for, it always also encourage other people to something better. I still I do believe in that.
Sure.
So I would like to finish our show today by underlining that the way this uh, communication and field which you've been working, and the way you have created your life is adventure, but also now through the help of AI, tech, and education, and everything. So it's all together
Hmm.
converging, right? And all
Yep.
that give our society endless possibility, not just for innovation, but for creating a more diverse and equitable global community. So I believe by fostering connections across cultures and industries, we can not only drive progress, but also ensure that this progress is meaningful, responsible, and sustainable. And
Sure.
adventurous. We should have fun.
And adventurous.
Very important, right?
Yep.
And bold, like you like. No, I want this. I want a big city. I want that. I want that. It's a beautiful story. I hope our people who sit just behind the screen sometimes, and oh no, they maybe, I believe we didn't have that much entertainment and maybe information. It maybe this made us more bold and actually kind of small crazy creative. I just go there, right? Now people, oh Google, oh no, no, no. But now, no, no, I don't know. That's why it's sparked so much interest, because we had no idea, we had no this actually attendance to so much information sources like now just sitting, right? So you
Mhm.
had to go and see.
Yep.
Sometimes actually it's better to put in the circumstances that you have no choice.
Mhm.
Amazing. And then your last I don't know, say something to our audience before you say bye.
Oh, okay. I think the easy one is like, oh, please chase your dreams. I mean, that's easy, right? But life is not that simple,
Mm.
right? Like, okay, yeah, chase your dreams, but it's I to a certain extent I chased my dreams, but I did put some thought behind it, and like I mentioned, I lived in Arkansas for 5 years, because I was like, okay, this is not where we want to end up in our life. We want to live in a big city, but at the moment, this is a very good opportunity. So let's suck it up, right? Like let's suck it up and be smart about this. I lived in another city in Canada. It's called Lethbridge. It's very small. Same thing. It wasn't where I wanted to be, but I'm like, at this point in time, it's quite smart to be here. So I think, as far as career advice goes, think 2 or 3 moves into the future. The
Mm-hmm.
first move you take maybe is not exactly what you want, but will it, move the ball forward to where you want to go? And that's what I've done. So it wasn't quite as simple like, oh, adventure, I'll just drop everything and run. No, I thought about, 2 or 3 moves ahead. And, that would be my, the comment I'd like to make to people.
So actually, to trust the process and enjoy the journey. Small
Correct.
steps, but enjoy the journey. Yes, it's important. We should do that. Thank you so much again for
Sure.
staying with us, and to our audience once more, stay with us tuned and to the next time. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right. Thank you.